You know, when you consider the phrase member of parliament, you think about somebody who has been elected by the members of a certain constituent. Okay? And a vice chancellor may also be somebody who is appointed. And when you describe a member of parliament in that way, we may have a precise definition. Okay? And a vice chancellor, somebody who is appointed to take care of a university. You know, when we consider a vice chancellor as somebody who is appointed to be like an overall leader for a university, we can say that a member of parliament and also a vice chancellor are words that have clear-cut boundaries. But in contrast to these two examples, member of parliament and vice chancellor, you know, we may also come across words such as rich. Can we say that the word rich has a clear-cut, boundary? Can we say that the word rich has a precise definition? Okay. The word rich is an example of a fuzzy concept. It is a fuzzy concept because it does not have a precise definition. Okay. It is difficult to describe or to define the word rich. What do we mean when we say that somebody is rich? Okay. I may describe somebody who is rich as somebody who has several cars, and then another person may describe a person who is rich as somebody who owns several houses, and so on. So you don't have, like in this case, a precise definition of rich. So rich in this case is being considered as a fuzzy concept. Many linguists believe that this type of fuzziness pervades the human conceptual system. You know, think about other words such as tall, old, clever, strong, fast, clean, genius. We may not have one clear-cut definition. We may not have one precise definition for clever. I may describe clever in one way, and another person may describe clever in another way. Okay. And the same thing applies to genius. What do we mean when we say that a person is a genius? What does it mean? Okay. I may describe genius in one way, and then another person may describe genius in another way. Okay. So all these are examples of fuzzy concepts. Okay, now that we have looked at fuzzy concepts, we know what fuzzy concepts are all about. Okay, I would like us to look at another concept of graded, membership. Okay, graded membership. Concept members can be graded in terms of their typicality. Concept members can be graded in terms of their typicality. Okay, when we say that concept members can be graded in terms of their typicality, when you have certain words that you need to consider, a word such as bird, okay, what comes to your mind, okay, when your word bird is uttered? Or what is a typical, bird to you? To some people, a typical bird would be a sparrow. Okay. To others, a penguin is least typical. Okay. So when you consider a concept such as bird, a sparrow would be one of the birds that can come to somebody's mind. And then the least typical, the one that would be least considered, would be a penguin. Okay. So a sparrow in this case is being considered as prototypical, while a penguin is least typical. This is all because when you consider the concept bird, the bird that comes to your mind is a sparrow. Okay, and then the one that does not, like in this case, being considered as a typical bird would be penguin. And there are reasons for this. So to someone, in this case, a typical bird would be a sparrow because it has wings, but not a penguin. A penguin does not have any wings. Okay, so in this case, a sparrow is being considered as a prototypical bird, while a penguin is least typical. So fuzzy concepts and graded membership provide important insights into the nature of the human conceptual system. So what we're trying to see here, or what we're trying to do here, is trying to grade something in terms of its concepts, in terms of its attributes, in terms of its descriptions. Okay. So Fuzzy concepts in graded membership provide important insights into the nature of the human conceptual system. So there are no clear-cut boundaries or all or nothing notions. Concepts recognize degrees of typicality and fuzzy boundaries that make categorization uncertain in some cases. Okay, so we saw with the example of a bird that a typical bird would be a sparrow, but not a penguin. Okay, because we've used maybe a certain definition of what a bird is all about, maybe the plus wings one. Okay, because a sparrow in this case is considered as a bird that does have wings, while a penguin does not have wings. Okay, so this has enabled us to see which is a typical bird and which is not. Having looked at graded membership as well as fuzzy concepts, okay, we are going to move on to look at lexicalization. There is no reason to believe that human beings in different linguistic communities have different conceptual systems. So it is a well-known fact that people have different conceptual systems. We've seen this even from the definition of the word chair. Okay, that because we speak different languages, we have different ways of describe something, of looking at something. We can define words, objects in different ways. So there's no reason to believe that human beings in different linguistic communities have different conceptual systems. But do all languages express concepts in the same way? No, they don't. Okay? Let's consider the language English and also the language Spanish. In order to explain motion and manner in English, the word that is used is rod. And to express motion and manner in Spanish, the word is entro rodando. Okay? While to express motion and path in Spanish, the word is bajo. And to express motion and path, the word is moved down in English. Can you see the differences here? Yes, there are some differences. One word is used for English, and then like a phrase is used in Spanish to explain motion and manner. While in English, the phrase moved down is used to explain motion and path, while in Spanish it is just one word that is used to explain motion and path. So we can see some differences here. So these examples illustrate that the motion and manner have to be expressed separately in Spanish, whereas the motion and path are expressed separately in English. Okay, the motion and manner have to be expressed separately in Spanish, while the motion and path in English have to be expressed, separately. There is a sort of a phrase that is needed in order to explain motion and path in English, which is very unlike Spanish. Okay, and now I'm going to move on to look at grammaticalization. We've looked at lexicalization, but now is this important word that we need to know, grammaticalization. Grammaticalization is a word from grammar. Here we're going to consider how we change words, how certain morphemes, in this case affixes, and maybe non-lexical categories may be used in order to represent the grammar of a certain category. So some concepts are expressed by affixes and non-lexical categories, and these are said to have been grammaticalized. Okay, you will all know how we use the morpheme, the S, the RE, the IN, the AN, MA. Especially these, the ED, S, RE, IN, and AN, okay, in order to show that the word is in the past tense, or that the items that we have are more than one, or something is being done again, or even to show negation as in an. Okay, and then there are also other categories, the functional categories, as in must, the, and an. All these are used in order to tell us that something is happening maybe in the past, or there are more than one item involved, and so on. All these functional categories and also the morphemes that are attached to it are very important because they mark the grammar Okay, when these are not used, then you end up having sentences that are not grammatically correct. So that's why we've said these are said to have been grammaticalized. The concepts that are expressed by affixes and also those that are expressed by non-lexical categories are said to have been grammaticalized. Okay. You may say that a sentence is wrong or grammatically wrong because maybe these entities are not used. The affixes are not there, have not been attached to certain words. And also maybe the person may have used the functional categories in the wrong way. So it is important, to consider this because they may tell us something about what we have used. They may tell us something about the words that are being used. So the concept past, more than one, again, negation, obligation, definite, specific, conjunction are very important because when these are misused, then the meaning may also change. In conclusion, this topic has considered one of the approaches to meaning, and this approach is known as componential analysis, and componential analysis enables us to represent a word's meaning by breaking it down into smaller semantic components. We were able in this topic to break the word down into smaller components, into smaller features. Componential analysis is useful because it enables us to uncover similarities and differences in meaning between words. This was one of the advantages that we saw about componential analysis. But besides considering the advantages, we also saw some disadvantages of componential analysis. Componential analysis can work for some words, but not all the words that we come across. Underlying the use of words and sentences to express meaning in human language is a conceptual system. Okay, so we saw that it is important to consider, what a concept is all about. And when we consider the word concept, we are able to see why certain words are typical or certain objects are typical and others are not typical. We considered what fuzzy concepts are all about. Okay. And the conceptual system we've learned from this topic is capable of organizing and classifying all aspects of our life. For you to understand this topic even better, in case there were some details that you'd like to know about what we've covered in this topic, these are some references that you may need to consult. These are some books that you may need to consult in order to understand what we've talked about today. Okay, thank you. This marks the end of our lesson.